Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Well, last episode when I did the rack, the equipment defender rack for the stick equipment, I'm like, I'll shoot the next video outside, have better lighting, but I decided to shoot inside because today is 105 degrees. So we're going to try to stay out of that sun as much as possible. Plus there's, once again, some storms supposed to roll by later. I hope so, because we need the rain. But we are going to install the Equipment Defender version 2 blower rack. I got everything laid out here. There's not as many like little parts as the string trimmer or stick equipment rack. And we're gonna get into this install and get right after it. So there's all the parts laid out. I kind of put one rod into the base already, just kind of playing around looking at the instructions. But there's not many parts here, but they give you most of the tools that you need as far as tightening everything down, because this has a lot of theft deterrent hardware already, you know, with the Equipment Defender rack here, you know, theft proof screws, even though we all have this hardware somewhere or these tools available to do this, but they give you a lot of the items that you need to tighten everything down. Pretty much everything's a star bit, but you know, it gives you some kind of feeling that this is a little bit more protected and harder to steal right off the bat, because most people might not have this size. They're a little bit larger screws and everything, so that's a plus. Everything is super heavy duty and heavy. I mean, these products, between this and the stringer rack or the stick equipment rack, they come in very small boxes, but man, they weigh a ton. So that's good that everything is really heavy duty steel. So first thing they tell you to do is put this solid piece into the base plate and tighten these screws down. If I could find the hole, that would help. Can't find the hole. See, it's already theft deterrent from me. Can't even tighten the damn thing down. But I do like their stuff. Like I said about the stick equipment rack, yes, it's a little pricey, but compared to what else is out there on the market, you know, the reviews, the ratings, the quality of the stuff, even though it does say, you know, on the box, made in China, pretty much what isn't anymore for the most part. As long as it works and it's heavy duty, I don't care really where it's made anymore. Yes, I prefer everything to be made in America, but what are you gonna do? Because I guess if it was made in America, I guess it would probably cost double, right? So the next thing we got to do is put this piece on, which this is what holds your arm out of your blower. I haven't really figured out exactly where I'm going to put this rack. Probably back right here, because I got my cooler I leave over there, and I want to leave the front corner for the hand tool rack from Equipment Defender when I have a few extra bucks. I won't put that up there. My last video I talked about, I do use this trailer as a kayak hauling trailer too as well. That's why there's a box on the other side with a light built into it from Kingpin equipped light, which is really good. Once again, a little bit of a pricey item, but it's very well quality. It does red and white. So I use this to hold my kayak too. So I need to have this side, for the most part, available for when I'm launching, and all my other stuff goes in that box when I go to launch my kayak. So I prefer to have this equipment on the passenger side of the trailer. So when you're pulling up to a house, you know, you're not going into the street to get to your equipment, but unfortunately, this is a dual purpose trailer for us, so I have to keep it on this side. I'm a solo operator, so I'm just gonna pay attention anyway. Next piece is this back support, which goes on your straight rod here. So they do say in the instructions to actually take all the screws out, and on this particular setup, they want you to use the thread locker they supply with it. So I guess they figure vibration on this setup is gonna, you know, a lot more set screws than the stick equipment rack. That's more of a bolt-on. This is a lot of set screws. They want you to use the Loctite. We're going to go through and pull the screws out that I did tighten already and put this on there real quick before I go any further. Next thing they say to do is put the lock assembly on and just tighten it down just enough so it ain't sliding down, so you can work it around later where you need to adjust. Just snug it up, because I guess I'll pull these screws out later one by one and put Loctite on those as well. So the next thing is you got this bent rod here. It's going to go through your back support and also your base plate. Once again, just snug up the screws to hold it in place so it doesn't come out. This is all just to get prepared till you mount it to your trailer. Then, like I said, I'll take all these screws out and put Loctite on them. So you can see I have the bar kind of loose here right now that swings back and forth to hold your tube. This is just snugged up enough to hold it in place. And then, like I said, you got to take all this stuff apart and put your screws in anyway. So that's where we're at so far. So yes, it's the same day, but I had to change my shirt. When you're out here in the country and you live like on basically a field, when you're wearing a high-vis shirt, the little gnats gets attracted to those shirts if you're not moving around. So yes, it is the same day. Just changed my shirt, my work shirt, my day job work shirt. So next step is to put this collar on. You got this adjustable bar here. That's what comes over to the latches that locks your thing in, and your other collar sits on top of that. So now you just gotta lightly tighten these up too. You gotta go back through and tighten everything back down again. And what they say actually for this top collar is that you can fill it with epoxy for maximum security, because obviously if you take this set screw out, that collar, you could slide it off, get the bar off, and I guess get this, get your blower out. I mean, another way to do that too is if you want to lightly drill through the collar maybe after you do all your adjustments and use like a little set screw that way, you know, or something. But your epoxy is probably your best bet because you can fill it in, even though you could chip it out, you know, a little bit, but it just takes longer. I mean, most time when we're mowing lawns, we're not too far away from our trailer, and you know, the longer it takes somebody to steal something, they're not gonna, you know, they may attempt it, but they may not get away with it. So they say fill this top screw with epoxy for maximum security. So that's a little interesting tip on the instructions. At the top of every page it says remove all set screws and apply thread lock before tightening. Make sure all screws are very tight. And it says fill everything with epoxy. So that's like on the top of every page. I guess to make sure you get the point to use Loctite and fill them all with epoxy. I guess that would suck though if you change blowers to go try to readjust this again, but I guess if you stick to the same kind of blower, you should be okay, I guess. So basically when I'm looking at these instructions, it looks like that you are installing this whole rack pretty much almost together and making your adjustments like sitting on like your trailer on the ground. Then after you make all your adjustments, you mount it to the trailer, whether it's an enclosed or, you know, an open trailer like this. So I guess it's easier to do it that way and kind of makes sense. I found some hardware that would make sense to go in here. They really don't tell you like what screws go where necessarily. I guess they figure that we're mechanically enough since the job that we do, or people putting this together are mechanical enough to figure this out. But we just got these little larger screws that kind of go recessed in there and just kind of sit like that, and you got your equipment defender, and that's how the L bracket sits on that. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side from the inside out because you got threads. One thing I forgot to do is put thread locker on this before I put these screws in. See, I'm already forgetting steps. I'll give you a little tube with it. We have some extra stuff too. We actually use blue a lot so we can take things back off, but pretty much red is like a permanent install. You don't need much of this on the screws. You know, a lot of companies will actually send the screws with like the Pace thread locker on there, so you don't have to do all that. So at least every time you go to put it in, you're not taking them out and then as you adjust it, then putting them on, you know, putting the thread locker on. Kind of like that, so you're not like doing it twice, but I didn't design it. I didn't come up with the instructions. I'm just showing you guys how to do it. But these we can tighten all the way down, they say. Very tight. If I see the word very tight again, I'm gonna have nightmares about it. Very tight. So next you gotta take this bracket that we just put together here. It goes on the outside of this, and there's adjustment like slots in this. So we're just gonna get the screws kind of started, and we'll have to adjust it once we put our blower in here. Has two slots in it, front and back, which makes sense. But hopefully where I got this set up, it's actually okay where it's sitting, because they give you 3 holes here and 2 slots, you know, basically to fit every blower that's on the market. So I'm putting the Loctite on these since these screws are out already. And then we'll bring our blower, set it in place after we do a couple more steps. Get all the adjustments done, which we won't bore you with that. You know, you gotta adjust it for your blower. I mean, instructions show you kind of what you gotta adjust. And it's almost self-explanatory. It's just a base for a blower, so you kind of know how it has to sit. And then once we get all that done and everything tightened down, then we'll mount it to our trailer, which our trailer is obviously an open trailer, and it's got square top too, but I also have wire mesh up the side, so hopefully it doesn't interfere too bad with the install. We might have to grind some of it out of the way. I don't know. I haven't looked that far ahead in the instructions. We're doing this together as we go. The next step is mounting this bracket on this piece right here. That's your blower tube. So it says if you point it towards the rack itself, it's going to keep your tube more straight up and down. If you turn it this way, it's going to keep it more at an angle and not as high. It says that's more useful for an enclosed trailer. We're on an open trailer here, so I rather just mount my tube straight up and down. If I don't like it and it's too tight and pain in the butt to get in, then I'll just change this around and put my support farther out. So basically that goes on there. And then you have your tube right here, your tube holder that goes on that bracket. It's all set screws to do all your final adjustments. So that's your next step. Then basically after this, that's pretty much our rack. You know, this comes over, locks down, etc., yada, yada, yada. But we got to make all of our adjustments on this so everything fits with your blower. So I'm not going to bore you through that step. We'll kind of get this mounted on there with some screws, and then we'll make all our final adjustments, and then we'll get this mounted to our trailer. So we have most of the important parts adjusted, but I didn't completely adjust this swing arm yet because I want to see how I want this to sit with that actual blower with the tube, if I want it upright or not. You know, doing it on the trailer base itself, I don't want to deal with that. They also give you this angle bracket that can mount like back here to prevent your blower from being removed even in the locked position. But the way my blower is set up, there's no way you could take it out of this as far as I know. I'm going to just double check it when I put it on the trailer. I don't think I need this angle bracket. It's just an added security. But once we get this thing mounted to the trailer, we'll just double check to make sure that you couldn't take the backpack blower off. I just think this is just another item that we really don't need, and it'll just be in our way. So they give you a bag marked open trailer. So they give you two smaller bolts if you just have angle iron, but with the longer squared tube. They give you longer ones here with carriage bolts. And you just got to mark it where you want it and drill 27/64 size holes. But if you don't have that drill bit, if you get close to probably 3/8 or whatever this is, it would still work too. It's because you got the carriage bolts that would, you know, hold into the squares there. So I have a pretty big drill index, so I probably have that size. So we'll drill these through. Alright, we got everything set up, adjusted. Only changes I did, I'll show you here in a minute when I take this off. But I had this Stihl BR 800X, Magnum X, whatever it is. I had this blower from all my properties that I've owned. And so that was a luxury that I actually already had this blower, so it saved me a little bit of money. But it's still not a cheap blower to replace. And overall, you know, somebody could always steal something. But this will take a while for somebody to get through. And you can actually put a padlock through here too as well. I have the combination lock just like I do for the string trimmer and the edger. So I paid the extra $30 to have the combination lock because I don't want to have any more keys. But you also have a padlock hole here, which I'll show you shortly, that you can double reinforcement. But you know, by the time somebody gets this off, you should be back by your trailer, I would hope, or somebody's going to see them. And just like any other time, you catch that person stealing something of yours, it's going to be a bad day for them anyway. So it's a very cool setup. I mean, it's super rigid. I mean, I'm moving the blower, but the rack itself, with just those two bolts going through the square tube, it's not moving. It's super rigid. I made my adjustments here. I kind of have the tube straight up. This is pretty tight. You can adjust this to make it a little bit looser, but I wanted it tight. You know, over time, this is going to stretch out to the right spot. I mean, this is a bigger tube from Stihl anyway, so I can kind of adjust this around more or less and kind of keep it the way it is. But overall, I think it's a very easy install. It definitely is. The only thing I would change on this is that I would probably ship the screws separately, even though it may make it a little bit difficult to know which screw goes where, but most of the screws are pretty much the same size. This way you don't have to back out those set screws and put the Loctite on. That's my only change I would do. And also with that bracket, that angle bracket that they have to prevent anybody taking it out, I don't need it with this blower. The way this is set up, and it's probably for most blowers, but you can see here, this bar goes right in here, so you can't pick this out. You know, that angle bracket is to come over the top, I guess, if you have a different setup. But I definitely don't need it on this blower because you have this void right in between here, so you can't get this off. So I didn't have to add this angle bracket that you see right there. It's in the instructions to use that, I guess, for different blowers to prevent anybody from picking it out. But this ain't gonna go anywhere. So to use this is pretty simple. Got you set down there. You know, we got it locked right now, so you can't open it. Like I said, there is a little padlock hole here, so you can put a padlock through there as well. So I guess you don't even need to have a combination unit if you don't want, or a keyed unit, or it's just an extra safety feature to prevent it from being open. I think they all come that way. Obviously, the latch is going to be the same, but right now I have it locked. I have the combination thingamabopper here, so I just got to spin it. I'm going to set my combination later. You can push that lever back, and you pull this bar, and it swivels out of the way. And all you got to do is pick it up and out of the way, and you're good to go. So only things I did differently from the instructions was these screws here and these screws here. I actually had some blue Loctite So I put blue Loctite in those screws and those 2 screws there for this arm itself, in case I want to readjust it and it's not a pain in the butt to get off. Or if I change blowers, I think my setup here is going to be good for all the blowers that we'll be using anyway, even if I go down a size later. This is a good footprint here for most of your blowers. I think the arm itself will be good to come across. It's just this here, based on your tube or whatever, you may want to readjust this later. So I use blue Loctite on that. And that angle bracket goes back here if you need it for your particular blower. But I mean, this thing, without having the blower on there, guys, this thing it's on there. I mean, I'm twisting the actual whole, I think, the tube itself of the trailer over the actual Equipment Defender rack. It's a nice setup. I never had version 1, so I don't know what version 1 consisted of, but this version 2 with this swivel bar, I mean, that is so freaking easy. And then just turning this lock, you can't get that open. So you set your combination, spin it, and then you just take your blower off. I mean, that is pretty simple, but pretty badass, but at the same time, complicated, right? So whoever came up with the design of this is pretty well thought out. You know, like I said, I didn't have version 1, so I think this is a very good setup. Very easy to get on and off. You're not jerking around with things being tied down and everything else. So I like the setup, guys, big time. So to put it on, literally just set it in place. Obviously, put your tube in first. Come over here. Swing your bar across, and it's in there. It ain't gonna go anywhere. So it's gonna be secure going down the road. I'm keeping this as tight as I can so my tube doesn't blow out. I kind of have it set back just a little bit, so it's like inside the footprint of the trailer. But overall, guys, I think it is great. You want a little bit of movement while you're going down the road, but it ain't gonna be bouncing up and down. I mean, as far as it moves. One little bonus tip, keep all the little torque Allen keys that they give you with this rack with you, like in a little pouch or something, in case something comes loose on the road. You're not trying to fumble around, go through your drill tips, drill bits and tips to try to find one this size. So I would keep these with you at all times, like I said, in a little pouch, in case you got to tighten something up on the road and you're not having racks falling apart on you in case they do come loose. Save these. That's it for this install of this Equipment Defender version 2 backpack blower rack. I like it. It's simple. I can walk away from my trailer and know that it's going to take somebody a while to get this off. I'll put the other video for the string trimmer and edger rack video at the end of this for that install. That took a little bit longer. I mean, you know, filming for you guys takes a little bit longer to do these things anyway because of the filming process, but the string trimmer rack, it's super solid too as well. It just has a little bit more odds and ends to it for pieces to make your final adjustments to support the motors on that, which you can see right over there. And I'm running the Milwaukee cordless right now for my stick equipment. And I can, you know, use the pruner. I can get the pole saw for that and everything else. So I like that stuff right now for what I'm doing, the amount of jobs I'm doing right now. That cordless Milwaukee setup's working perfectly. There's no mixing gas or nothing else. I know there's, was it Crest is out there now, which is another cordless setup. My only concern about the cordless setup is that if I get caught in a rainstorm, I may have to worry about that. So, you know, I'll watch the weather. If it turns into a problem where I'm out in the rain and get caught in a lot of rainstorms, I may have to go to gas. But for now, or I throw those in the back of my truck, you know, maybe get a gas one to leave on there. But, you know, if I'm jumping in between storms, that may be an option for me to, you know, put gas on the trailer and keep those inside the back of my truck underneath my cover if it turns into a problem. But most of the time I go out, I'm all right. And like I said, if I have to real quick, I can throw them in the back of my truck. So I'm going to run those string trimmers and the edger till they probably die anyway, because I have so many Milwaukee batteries that's just kind of stupid for me to go out and spend money on a gas unit right now when I have the cordless setups. Just got to watch the weather, guys. Not a big deal. I know I'm going off subject at the end of this video, but just a thought on that. But yeah, I like this stuff. I think it looks really nice on the trailer, having both of their setups on here. I am going to get the hand tool set up as well. I hope this video helped you guys figure out to install this. This one, like I said, is a lot easier than the other one. This ain't a sponsored video. I paid for these full price, no discount, no nothing. So worth investing into something like this to protect your more expensive equipment. You know, this may cost you a couple $100, but you're protecting, you know, $5, $6, $7, $1,000 worth of equipment for a couple $100. It's kind of sad that we got to do that today, but it is what it is, guys. So appreciate you guys stopping by. As always, be safe out there, and I'll catch you on the job.